The Young and the Restless spoilers for months, the speculation had spiraled around the identity of Aristotle Dumas, the elusive power broker whose fingerprints had suddenly appeared across the global business sphere and whose influence threatened even the seemingly invincible Newman legacy. Many suspected he was a ghost from the past, a vengeful tycoon hiding behind layers of wealth and false names. Some believed he was Cain Ashby, reborn and rebranded, operating in shadows to reclaim lost glory. But those theories, however alluring, proved to be misdirection. Because when the truth was finally revealed aboard the luxury train careening through the European countryside, it shattered every assumption and detonated a wave of panic no one was prepared for. Aristotle Dumas was not Cain. Not a foreign investor. Not an anonymous titan. He was Ray Rosales? The man believed to be dead, buried, and long forgotten. And now, very much alive, standing in front of a stunned audience that included Victor Newman, Adam, Sharon, and the rest of the Newman dynasty, pulling off a silicon mask with slow, deliberate intent. The moment his face was revealed, the atmosphere shifted violently. Gasps echoed through the car, a mixture of disbelief and horror. The man everyone had mourned, the husband Sharon had wept for, the detective who had served Genoa City with quiet integrity, was not only alive, he was the architect of a revenge plot so intricate it had deceived the entire world. Ray's eyes were not those of the man they remembered. They were colder, sharper, poisoned by time and betrayal. His voice, steady but burning, cut through the stunned silence like a blade. "You buried me too early," he said, looking directly at Victor. "You all did." Victor narrowed his eyes, immediately processing the threat, but it was Adam who reacted first. He stood, his voice rising. "Ray," he said, breathless, shocked. "What the hell is this?" Ray's expression twisted. "You," he growled. "You ruined everything. My marriage. My name. My peace." His eyes flicked toward Sharon, but it wasn't affection, it was accusation. "You told me you loved me, Sharon. You said you'd never let him come between us. And yet every time I turned around, there he was. Whispering in your ear. Infecting your life." Sharon was already crying. Her lips trembled as she stepped toward him, desperate and raw. "Ray, please, don't do this. I didn't know. I thought you were gone. I thought I'd lost you." Ray turned away. "You did lose me. The man you loved died a long time ago. What stands here now is what you and Victor and Adam created. You left me to rot. You turned your back. And now you will all feel what I felt." Victor remained composed, but his mind raced. Ray, now Dumas, had outplayed him, and the cost of underestimating him was now manifest. "What do you want?" he asked, voice low. Ray didn't answer directly. Instead, he pulled a device from his pocket, revealing a set of controls tied to the train's security and navigation systems. "I've locked down the train. You're not going anywhere until I'm finished. You all thought this was your escape. Now it's your prison." At that moment, Adam realized he was the primary target. The way Ray's gaze lingered. The tone of his voice. This wasn't about power or money, it was about personal justice. Adam tried to deflect. "You think threatening us will fix what you lost?" he challenged. "You think Sharon's going to love you again if you hold us hostage?" Ray's eyes narrowed. "No. I don't want her love. I want you to suffer. I want Victor to suffer. I want the world to know that Ray Rosales didn't die. He evolved. Into something stronger. Smarter. Dangerous." The tension became unbearable. Tessa clutched Mariah's hand. Nick and Victoria exchanged worried glances. Even Nikki's calm exterior cracked. But Sharon stepped forward again, pushing past fear, past logic, into a realm of raw desperation. "Ray, please," she whispered. "Come back to Genoa City. Come back with me. We'll fix this. I'll be the wife I should have been. We can rebuild. You're not a monster. You're still in there. Her voice was trembling, but her eyes were steady. We can still have a life. Ray froze. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Doubt. Longing. But it died as quickly as it came. You had your chance, he said, voice cracking with restrained fury. You gave it away the moment you chose to believe he was more important than us. He gestured to Adam with venom. You chose your loyalty. Now live with the consequences. It was then that Cane, who had remained silent, finally stepped forward. His eyes were sharp, measured. Ray, he said cautiously. You've made your point. They know now. You've exposed them. Humiliated them. But don't let your anger cost you everything you've worked for. You're smart. Strategic. But if you let vengeance consume you, then all of this grand plan, it becomes meaningless. Ray looked at Cane with a mix of curiosity and warning. Why do you care? Cane shrugged. Because I've been there. I've been the man on the edge, watching the people who wronged me thrive while I burned inside. And I've made choices I can't take back. I just don't want you to be next. The train rattled in the background, the outside world oblivious to the emotional war erupting inside. Ray hesitated. His finger hovered over the device in his hand. One command and the Newman Empire would crumble. One press and everything he had orchestrated would reach its finale. But now, Sharon's tears, Cane's warning, and the stunned silence of his former enemies weighed on him in a new way. Power wasn't just in revenge, it was in restraint. And yet, Ray wasn't ready to walk away. Not yet. He turned back to Adam, stepping close, his voice deadly quiet. This isn't over, he hissed. You stole my life. I'm going to take yours. Piece by piece. Day by day. You'll never know when, or how, but you'll feel it. And you'll break, just like I did. Then, just as suddenly, Ray stepped back. He didn't detonate the train. He didn't pull a gun. He simply turned and walked toward the back car, disappearing into the shadows, leaving a silence behind so absolute, it screamed. Sharon collapsed into Nick's arms, sobbing. Adam stood frozen, shaken in a way no boardroom war had ever done to him. Victor remained silent, processing the battlefield that had been his making. And somewhere, Ray Rosales, Aristotle Dumas, continued walking into the dark, not yet done, not yet finished, his revenge incomplete, his pain still burning like a fuse waiting for the final spark. Ray's scream was so loud and guttural it didn't sound human. It was the roar of a man whose soul had been shattered, who had buried his identity in the ashes of betrayal and now stood, reborn not as a husband, not as a protector, but as a vessel of vengeance. His face was contorted with rage, veins bulging at his temples, eyes wild and bloodshot. The gun in his hand shook not from hesitation, but from barely contained fury, as though it itched to release years of suppressed pain with one final act of violence. You ruined my life, he howled, pointing the weapon directly at Adam, who instinctively ducked behind Victor like a frightened child clinging to the shadow of the man who had always cleaned up his messes. You destroyed everything I had. You smiled while I burned. And now you hide behind your father? How fitting. Sharon's sobs escalated into sharp gasps as she stepped forward, her hands trembling in the air, trying to calm the storm before it exploded. Ray, please, she pleaded, voice cracking under the weight of desperation, don't do this. This isn't you. You're not a killer. Put the gun down. But Ray turned to her with eyes full of betrayal. You don't know me, he shouted. You never did. You chose him over and over again, and now you want to save me? Save yourself. The barrel of the gun twitched between Adam and the floor as his breathing grew heavier. Sharon stepped back, tears streaming down her face. Her fear was no longer just for Adam, it was for Ray. He wasn't just angry. He was unraveling. Victor raised a hand, calm as ever, calculating the angles, watching Ray's posture, his twitching hands, the way his right eye wouldn't stop blinking. He had seen this before. Men driven by obsession. By pain. By madness. Ray, he said evenly, I understand your anger. I understand betrayal. But this is not justice. It's suicide. Ray's laugh was loud and sharp like broken glass. You don't get to talk to me about justice as Victor. You've walked away from everything. You protected this snake, your son. You buried every scandal and silenced every voice. You called yourself a father, a leader. But you're a tyrant. You think you can fix this with words? Victor didn't flinch. No, he said coolly. But I can offer you what you want most, retribution. Adam has made mistakes. He has hurt people. Maybe it's time he paid for that. Maybe it's time the world saw him for what he truly is. Adam's eyes widened as he turned to Victor in disbelief. Dad? But Victor didn't look at him. His gaze stayed locked on Ray. You want him humiliated? You want him punished? I'll make it happen. I can make him irrelevant, discredited, even hated. Just put down the gun, and I'll give you what you want. A public fall. Not a bullet. A legacy destroyed. Ray's hand shook violently now. His lips trembled. For a moment, it looked like he might break, might collapse under the weight of everything he carried. But then the tremor passed, and something darker set in. A dangerous stillness. You think I want him discredited, he said quietly. You think I came back from the dead, spent years building an empire, hiding my face, infiltrating your world, just for him to lose his job? I want him to feel what I felt. I want him to wake up every day and hate that he's still breathing. That's not something you can arrange in a press release, Victor. And now, the shift was obvious. This wasn't righteous anger. It was something deeper. Unstable. Damaged. Ray had crossed into a place none of them could follow. A place born from trauma and left to fester. He wasn't calculating anymore. He was manic. His breathing erratic. His thoughts jumbled. Sharon's face paled. She had seen him lose his temper before, seen him wounded and hurt. But never like this. Never out of control. Ray, she whispered, taking a step closer, you need help. Please. Let me help you. But he jerked back. Don't touch me, he screamed. You had your chance to help me. All of you did. His eyes darted around the car, suspicious, paranoid, haunted. The lights seemed too bright. The air too thick. He was drowning in memory, in pain, and no one could reach him. Not now. It was then that Cane stepped forward, Amanda just behind him. Their faces were taut with concern, but not fear. They had been part of this plan for months, helping Ray rise under the Dumas persona. They believed in the mission, but not in this breakdown. Ray, Cane said gently, come with us. Let's go to the control room. You don't need to do this here. We can lock this train down, cut them off, let them suffer from the sidelines. That was always the plan, wasn't it? Amanda nodded. Let Newman destroy himself. That was what we agreed. You can't lose control now. You're not just Ray Rosales anymore. You're Dumas. The man they fear. But if you let this rage take over, you'll lose everything we built. Ray looked at them, and for a moment, confusion swam behind his eyes. He wanted to believe them. But his hands still clenched the weapon. His mind still spun. They deserve pain, he murmured. Real pain. And they'll get it, Cane said. But not like this. You do this now, and you're just another criminal. You want to rewrite history? Be the man who took down the Newmans with precision, not panic. Slowly, Ray lowered the gun. Not completely. But it dipped just enough to let them breathe again. His chest still heaved, his eyes still burned, but he nodded once, stiffly. Fine, he said. Take me to the control room. But we finish this today. Cane placed a hand on his shoulder, guiding him out, while Amanda kept her eyes on Victor and Adam. The war wasn't over. But for now, the bloodbath had been postponed. And behind them, Sharon collapsed to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably, not because she had saved him, but because she feared she had already lost him for good. Mariah stood by the window, arms wrapped around herself as if bracing against an invisible storm, her eyes unfocused as she watched the shadows stretch across the walls of their home, the place that had once been filled with warmth, laughter, and promises of forever. But now, all she felt was the coldness of guilt settling into her bones, a silence so oppressive it drowned out even the softest echoes of the past. She had been silent for too long, bottling the torment inside her, believing that with enough time, enough smiles, enough shared moments with Tessa and Arya, the weight would somehow lift. But it hadn't. It had only grown heavier. She had carried her secret like a stone tied to her soul, dragging her deeper into a place where love could no longer reach her. And as she turned to face Tessa, who had just entered the room with that familiar softness in her eyes, unaware that their world was about to break, Mariah knew the moment had come. She had rehearsed it countless times, but no amount of preparation could dull the pain of what she was about to do. I think it's best for all of us, if we break up, she said quietly, her voice barely audible over the hum of the heater in the corner. But the words hit like a bomb, and Tessa froze in place, her smile vanishing, her eyes wide with disbelief. What are you talking about? She whispered, her voice trembling. Where is this coming from? Mariah didn't answer right away. Her throat was tight, her heart pounding. She couldn't bear to meet Tessa's gaze because she knew what she'd see there: shock, confusion, devastation. And she couldn't handle that. Not on top of everything else. I can't keep pretending everything's fine, Mariah said, finally turning around, her arms falling to her sides in defeat. I've been drowning, Tess. Every day I wake up and try to smile, try to be the partner you deserve, the mother Arya needs. But inside, I'm breaking. I can't forgive myself for what I did. And I can't expect you to live with someone who's not whole. Tessa shook her head, stepping closer, reaching for her. Whatever it is, we can get through it. We always do. You don't get to make this decision for both of us, Mariah. That's not fair. I won't let you go without a fight. Mariah's lips trembled as she stepped back. It's not about fairness. Or love. I love you, Tessa. I love you so much it hurts. But love isn't enough. Not this time. There's nothing you can say, nothing you can do that will change my mind. I have to go through this alone. I need to figure out how to live with what I did, and I can't do that with you holding my hand and telling me everything will be okay, because it's not. It's never going to be okay again. Tessa's voice cracked. You're scaring me. What are you not telling me? Please, if something happened, we can talk about it. We can work through it. But Mariah shook her head. It doesn't matter. Not anymore. What matters is that I'm toxic to you and Arya right now. I'm not safe, not emotionally. I'm lost, and the only way I can find myself is by walking away from everything I love. I'm doing this because I love you. Because I love her. And I refuse to let my darkness infect our daughter. The silence between them was deafening. Tessa stood frozen, her hands still half extended, her mouth open but no words coming out. She had always known Mariah could be intense, emotional, volatile. But this wasn't impulsive. It was cold. Measured. Heartbreaking in its resolve. So that's it? Tessa finally managed to say. You're just going to disappear? Walk out on me and Arya like we're just collateral damage in your guilt spiral? Mariah's eyes flooded with tears, but she didn't move. No, she whispered. I'm not disappearing. I'm scheduling visitation. I'll see Arya. I'll be in her life. But I can't live in this house. Not right now. Maybe not ever again. Her breath caught, but she pushed through. I don't expect you to understand. And I know this sounds cruel. But it's the only way I know how to survive. Tessa's hands dropped to her sides. This doesn't feel like survival, she said bitterly. It feels like surrender. Mariah didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. The damage had been done, the decision made. She gathered the small bag she had packed earlier and stepped past Tessa, pausing only to look back at the family portrait hanging on the wall, her, Tessa, and baby Arya, smiling under a sunset they thought would last forever. She blinked back the tears and walked out the door. Tessa remained frozen long after the door closed. Her heart raced, her thoughts spiraling, trying to make sense of the sudden collapse of her life. She wanted to chase Mariah down, to scream, to cry, to fight. But instead, she stood in the silence of their home, the air thick with memories, her arms empty, and her heart slowly breaking.